This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and what I have for you today is a Viro Thor padlock. This Italian-made lock was sent to me by Richard in the UK, so Richard, one more time, thank you very much for the locks you sent my way. This is one of Viro's higher-end products, and it packs a fair amount of security into a relatively small package. The lock body is made out of hardened steel. It's about 60 millimeters wide, about 30 millimeters thick, and it has a 13 millimeter sliding bolt shackle. That shackle is designed to secure the end link of a chain, and as you can imagine, once you have a chain link through that shackle, it would be very difficult to access that shackle for destructive attacks. The core in this lock is very similar to what we've seen in the past in some of Viro's armored shutter locks. It has 7 pins, but this one is set behind a very thick hardened steel spinner, and that's to help prevent drill attacks. That also means that the core is set very deeply into the lock body. I actually measured the distance between the front of the first pin and the front of this spinner, and it was just over 10 millimeters. So certainly that depth is going to create some difficulties for our picking. If we look carefully, we can see that is a relatively paracentric little keyway, so that's certainly going to be difficult also. And with 7 pins, and traditionally Viros have several security pins, I am expecting this will be a tricky little pick. So let's get to picking, and then I will take it apart and show you what's inside. I'm using top of the keyway tension with one of the Peterson flat 5 tools and a standard pick in 15 thousandths. Sorry, standard hook in 15 thousandths. Okay. Nothing on 1. Little click out of 2. Nothing on 3. 4 is binding a bit. Okay, got something there. Click out of 5, nothing on 6 or 7. Okay, we just hit number 1, dropped into a small false set. Counter rotation on 2. Okay, got 2 set. Nothing on 3, nothing on 4. Okay, some counter rotation on 5, I think. Okay, got 5 set. Counter rotation on 6. And we just opened the lock up. Okay, so certainly a fair number of security pins in here, and we were able to get it open, but that did require a fair amount of attention to my tensioning. It's really hard to appreciate when you're picking on video whether or not I'm being sloppy or very careful with my tension. I will say this is a lock that required very, very careful tension. Okay, let's get this guy apart and I will show you what's inside. Okay, usually to open up shutter locks that can be disassembled, what we do is insert a thin shim like this in between the shackle and the lock body. And what we want to do with this shim is to bridge the gap between the main part of the shackle and the end portion. Once we get that shim in place, we turn it 180 degrees so it's at the bottom of the shackle. And then if we did it right, we should be able to slide the shackle right out. Okay, next point is to just shake it to try to loosen a few pieces. And should be one more. There we go. And once we get all these pieces out, the core should slide free. Okay. Then we can take that spinner off. It looks like all of these pin chambers are held in place by a piece of tape. That's pretty disappointing on a high-end lock. And I am guessing that the core is retained by that end piece. So let me see if I can pull that end piece out. Okay, that came out. And we may be able to remove the core with a key and a follower now. However, I do want to be careful because I don't know what the inside of that core looks like. So I'm going to see if I can shim that before I take it apart, just to be extra careful. Okay, let's get a follower in here now. There we go, perfect. Okay, looks like we have a steel pin in slot 1 and then 6 brass pins. Let's dump these out. Looks like these are all standard key pins. Okay, let's get that shim out. And then see if we can remove these driver pins. Okay, we have a steel anti-drill pin in slot 1, standard. 2 is a spool. 3 is a spool. 4 is a spool. 5 is a spool. 6 is a spool. And 7 is a spool. So lots and lots of spools in here. Looks like really nice pinning. Okay, let me give you a close-up of these pins. Okay, as you can see, all of our key pins are standard, with number 1 being made out of steel as an anti-drill feature, and then 2 through 7 made out of brass. Then for the driver pins, we have 1 standard pin in slot 1 made out of steel, again an anti-drill feature, then 6 spools in slots 2 through 7. In slot 8, you can see that retainer pin that holds the core into the lock body. Then looking at that core, nothing particularly special about it. You can see the track that number 8 pin rides in to keep it from rotating too far. Uh-oh. Then we have this cut on the outside of the lock. What that's for is that's actually the actuator. The core is the actuator, and that works by the locking mechanism actually reaching through the side, or I guess bottom, of the lock body. It's a pretty efficient little locking mechanism. I've only seen it in one other lock, and that's the Spanish-made IFAM Huno 80. Then for the the keyway, you can see we have a relatively paracentric design, certainly one that is tricky. Okay, I think that's everything on this Viro Thor padlock. If you do have any questions or comments about it, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a nice day. And Richard, one more time, thank you very much for sending me this lock. Bye-bye.